Hi, good morning, everybody. I am so glad you're all here today. Thank you for joining us. This is a little bit of a different Zoom view and experience that I'm used to. So I wonder, those of you that are here, I know we still have people joining, but those of you that are here, could somebody just give me a hi, Sarah, in the chat so I know that we're live and people can hear me? Okay, great. There's a few people. Hi, thank you all so much. All right, so good morning and welcome to today's webinar, which is called How to Actually Use AI in RevOps. I'm Sarah Kinsey. I'm the VP of Commercial Strategy here at Rattle. And before we get started, I'm going to cover a few common housekeeping items that you're all familiar with. Okay, so first of all, a question that always gets asked is, are we going to be recording today's session? And yes, we are. We will record it and we will send you all the replay after the webinar in a few days. Sometime later this week, we'll send it to you. If you look down in the bottom, you will see that there's a chat and there's also a Q&A tab. You are welcome to use either one. And I see that somebody raised their hand, but I'm not sure what to do with that. So Danny, I see that you raised your hand. If you have a question, please feel free to put it in either the Slack or the Q&A, and we'll get to that when we have a chance. So there's both Slack chat and Q&A. You are welcome to use either one for any questions you have. I will be asking the audience today questions throughout the webinar, and I highly encourage you to use the chat today to, one, answer my questions, because that helps me know that we're still being heard. And secondly, this is an opportunity where there's a bunch of RevOps people here today. If there are questions that you wanted to ask a cohort of RevOps, this is your chance, and I welcome you to use this. To get started, one of the things I will encourage everybody to do is share a little bit about yourself, including your LinkedIn profile link. Networking is never more important than it is right now. This is a chance that we can all connect with people in related industries, maybe in related geographies, and certainly all within the same department. RevOps, sales, etc. So I encourage you, if you're comfortable, share your name, maybe your role, maybe the company you work from, maybe where you are geographically, whatever you're comfortable with, and the link to your profile so anybody here can click and connect with you. All right. Here's what we're going to do for the time that we have together here today. I'm going to talk a little tiny bit about Rattle, because I wouldn't be doing my job as a marketer if I don't. Just a couple minutes of that. Then we're going to have a fireside chat with Kevin Heraly, the VP of RevOps at DemandScience, and also Apurva Verma, who is Rattle COO and co-founder. And then after that, Kevin is going to show several different use cases of how he's actually using AI in RevOps today. Apurva will share a little bit, we'll answer some Q&A, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so to get us started, I see that you are all sharing your LinkedIn profiles. That's great. I was going to ask a question, but I'm going to hold that one and let you all keep sharing your LinkedIn instead. So instead, I will say many of our attendees here today are Rattle customers, but we also have a good number of you who are just starting to get acquainted with Rattle. And so I would not be doing my job today if I did not take just a few minutes to introduce you to Rattle. So I'm going to do that now. All right. Sales execution is riddled with risks and misses. Reps miss important sales process steps, managers miss risk signals, and deals stall or fall out of the pipeline unexpectedly or sometimes quietly without anyone noticing. And Rattle is your AI that watches over the entire pipeline and brings those risks to the surface before they cost you deals in the quarter. Activity isn't the issue in most cases. Buyers are just more cautious right now. Deal cycles are longer than they were before. And it's not that you're lacking data, it's that you're lacking information that's hidden in the unstructured data that you have. Data is hiding risks. And the real killer of deals today is sales execution breakdown. Several years ago, it was generally agreed upon number was that businesses needed about 3x pipeline coverage to meet their business goals. A few years ago, I started hearing that this number had creeped up to maybe being 5x pipeline coverage. Whatever that number is today for you and your business, you may think that you have enough pipeline coverage, but then it's not translating into predictable revenue. Your deals maybe are looking fine in CRM, but then they're not at the end of the quarter. Your managers may be stuck chasing down context instead of coaching your reps, and your forecasts may be a bit unreliable. Execution gaps are hiding in plain sight. Here's what that can look like in the real world. These risks are not theoretical. They're happening every day across every stage. And this is whether it's reps skipping BANT, it could be missing ROI proof, or the buyer going dark after a demo. These are the patterns that do kill deals. So it might be interesting to ask yourself, do you think any of these are happening in your pipeline right now? And this is where Rattle is changing the game. We let you define the execution signals that matter to your business, and then we monitor every deal across those signals at scale automatically. So whether it's missing next steps, whether it's no executive sponsor or a stalled deal, Rattle can flag it and then notify the right people the moment needed in Slack, where they already spend a lot of their day. So that way you stay ahead of risk, your managers are able to coach faster, and you're fixing execution problems while they're still fixable. So whether you are a Rattle customer or you're just getting acquainted with us, if you don't have AI working for you in this way, let us show you how easy it is for Rattle to set this up for you so that you have these answers when you need them and you can win more deals and grow your business. Customers, if you want to learn more, contact your CSM. And those new to Rattle, you could let us know in the Q&A tab if you would like us to follow up with you, or you could use any of the other ways that you know to get in touch with us. All right. Now it is time for us to begin our fireside chat. Let me get out of this. All right, as I welcome our speakers, I'm going to go back to the question that I did not ask as you were all sharing your LinkedIn profiles, your LinkedIn URLs. The question I wanted to ask is, I'd love to understand where the audience today is at with implementing AI specifically for RevOps. I'd love to hear just what you would say, how you would answer that question, but here's a couple examples that you might choose to say. You could say that you are only using general AI tools right now, like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. Or maybe another option is you're beginning to explore what's possible with AI RevOps tools. Maybe you're evaluating or just beginning to kick things off. Or another option is maybe you're actively using AI RevOps tools today. And if you are, perhaps share which ones those are. Okay, now I am very excited to welcome our panelists, our speakers today. First of all, Kevin Heraly, the VP of RevOps at DemandScience. Welcome, Kevin. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always fun to join you guys.
Awesome, thank you. And Apurva. Apurva is our COO and our co-founder at Rattle. Apurva, thanks so much for helping me with this today. Welcome.
No, super excited, and I'm seeing the chat, so super excited to have everyone here today.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump right in with some Q&A for the two of you. Kevin, I want to start with you. Everybody has been talking about AI in RevOps for a couple of years now. But when you look at your day-to-day reality, will you tell me what's actually working versus what feels like just hype in what you're doing and how AI is working for you?
Yeah, so I think when I look at the ways that we've implemented AI here and the way that we're looking at implementing even more in the future, the stuff that's working right now is very narrow. It's very focused in the use case and what we're trying to accomplish. And it's built on real data that we already own. So we've had success so far using LLMs to synthesize Gong transcripts, turning into things like sales methodology output. So we use Spice, but we've used Medic in the past. So getting good summaries that actually help inform, what our sales leaders need to know about their pipeline and the deals that they're working. We're also using it to flag certain things, like macroeconomic risk indicators, things like budget freezes, or even things like tariff concerns. I know that those things are out there in the wild right now. So that's saving us, obviously hours per week, and directly feeds Salesforce, which is also really, really nice. So I would say the things that aren't working are, like I mentioned, so narrow, focused. Those are the things that are working. think things that are too broad can be really challenging because the tools are complex and it's hard to know where to start. I'd also say plug and play AI that claims to understand kind of our emotions and our strategy out of the box. Um, I think a lot of times that kind of leads to what you said. It's more hype from the vendors and more AI hype, which there's plenty of that to go around right now. There's a new tool every 6 minutes or something crazy like that. So I think right now, the tools that claim to understand strategy and strategy only, um, but not providing that structure. So in RevOps, you all know as well as I do that we've still got to do all the hard work. So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So mapping fields, aligning stages, cleaning data, AI is not going to fix that for you, at least not yet. I think we'll get there, and we'll probably get there faster than we realize. But when I talk about AI working for us in RevOps and for us as a business, what I really mean is that it saves us time. Ideally, it increases adoption and improves visibility and maybe even gives us insights that we would miss otherwise. So I think right now, anything else kind of risks being a shiny object.
Yeah, yeah. Apurva, I know you're talking to tons of RevOps and sales leaders every single week. How does Kevin's experience align with what you're hearing in the market and maybe amongst our customers as well?
Yeah, so I echo a lot with what Kevin has said. So where I've seen AI being successful is wherever it has to generate insights at a very high level, right? So be it summarizing the calls, doing call recaps, or be it identifying the risks in the deal, where the deal is stuck, or even something which is related to the places where AI is doing a remarkably good job. I think in addition to what Kevin has said, which I agree with, right? Like it cannot do a lot of thinking for you. I'll sort of extrapolate it to another level, where I'll say that the intelligence part of knowing why one deal is more important than the other, or if at all the forecast is sort of sandbagging, or are we being very conservative in the forecast. So some of those whys behind whatever we are seeing on the screen, that is something which AI is not there yet, right? So that's something which I imagine is going to change very quickly, because any changes which we are seeing, any progress which we are seeing in AI is happening way too quickly. And, it is not even years, it's months or weeks now. But I think that's the next iteration, which I eventually see happening, but I don't think we are there yet. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Kevin, another question to you. Take us back to the beginning of your journey with AI. How did you decide to start using AI at Terminus? Because I know you are at DemandScience now, but you had built something at Terminus, and then DemandScience has acquired Terminus, and now you're moving forward as DemandScience. So talk us through the whole journey of when you first started from AI at Terminus to DemandScience. What was your first step? How did you go about doing that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I think the really important thing is to think about narrow use case and focus, right? I also think it's really important to think about end user trust and adoption. So where is AI currently really, really strong? Apurva nailed it, that it's context, it's understanding the why. I think just about every CI tool out there allows you to build things like keyword trackers that can give you some insight and kind of let you know maybe directionally what types of conversations are having. But I think anybody on this call that's done those also probably gets as many false positives as they do, strong signal. Um, so one of the ways that we started here, um, we wanted to get a better understanding of policy change and macroeconomic impact, basically, what's happening here from a policy standpoint. Does that indicate risk with any one of our customers or prospects? Again, I think if we were just to create a budget or a keyword tracker that looks for things like budget freeze or budget pause or specifically macroeconomic, right? Like, you're going to get a lot of false positives because there can be a lot of reasons why somebody's pausing a budget or, reducing their spend with you as a vendor. And so what we want to do with AI is look for that context. So our executive team was looking to understand those macroeconomic factors like the tariffs, hiring freezes. We wanted to know, are they happening in customer conversations? And there was just no scalable way of extracting those insights from our transcripts without manually reviewing a ton of different conversations. So that became our first real use case here is, again, how can I increase the trust in what the AI is outputting, right? So it's getting these insights in front of people immediately, being ready and willing to iterate on the prompts that we're using so the output is more and more useful. So if a customer mentions a tariff or budget constraint, again, that kind of contextual way of looking at it, it does get flagged, it gets summarized, and the output goes straight into Slack for us. For this one specifically, it's going to go straight into Slack. It goes into a channel for people here in the company that just want to know more about that and that need to know if those conversations are happening. So that was our first use case here. It's narrow, but it's really high impact. And it's starting to prove to our leadership that AI can save time. It can surface, really strong insights that we otherwise might be missing. And it's solving an actual painful, high leverage problem better than we could before.
Interesting. Thank you. Apurva, the example that Kevin just shared, it is an example where he's been using Rattle to help get to this information. And I can imagine for either our own customers who are not using this part of Rattle AI or any non-customers who are on the call today, they might be thinking, okay, that sounds great, but that sounds hard. How would this even get started? I wouldn't even know where to begin doing this. That might be a really big question, but I wonder if you can maybe share just a little bit about your advice and recommendation for how to get started.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And before I answer there, Kevin, you used the word trust. I think trust is the key, right? Absolutely, any piece of technology which you're trying to introduce in your team, it needs to be starting from a place in which you can ensure that everybody is relying on it. Otherwise, it's not a good enough implementation. So from what I understand, I think what I've seen with other customers, it's twofold. One is the kind of use case which you want to start with. And the second part is actually going ahead and creating that use case. So in addition to what Kevin has mentioned, I think one of the easiest wins which we have seen other RevOps folks achieve in their companies is with sentiment analysis use case, right? Whenever the customer sentiment goes negative, that's a very simple use case, a very powerful use case, but that gets immediate attention from leaders. Like if I'm a customer success leader, I would hate to be in a position in which if a customer meeting has gone south, I want to know about it today and not after 3 weeks. So I think that's a very good starting point, which I've seen a couple of other customers use. And with respect to the implementation part of it, so in Rattle, I think what we've tried to do is create everything which is standard out of the box and very easy. So we have always been a no-code solution, right? So what we've tried to do is come up with existing templates. So it is basically enabling that template, and that's pretty much how you can get started. It is not complicated. It should not take you more than like 30 minutes to kick off something which is like sentiment analysis. Of course, then after you roll it out to wider team, you can get their feedback. You can improve that context, that use case, but that's for later. But the initial setup should not take you more than 30 minutes by any means.
All right, Kevin, back to you. Could you give us a specific example of how AI has changed something very concrete in the RevOps world? I would like for our audience to be able to hear exactly what measurable results might look like.
Sure. So I think one of the really good use cases that we've recently rolled out is meant to drive more specific sales results and sales outputs here in the business or outcomes. So I'd say one of the newer high impact examples of how we're using AI is to uncover channel opportunities. So I'm sure a lot of RevOps folks here on the call, as part of your business, you work with partners or channels. And I think one of the struggles that we had was that our channel team often found out about these, too late in the sales cycle, if they found out at all. So a lot of times you have to rely on the salesperson or maybe somebody that joined the sales call to tag you in, to let you know in Slack, maybe to share a snippet of a call. And we all know, like, everybody's doing a little bit more nowadays. And if you're taking 10 calls a day, maybe on the high end, but if you are and you're back to back all day, remembering to do those things is really challenging. And we found the same challenge here. So what we've done is we've set up a custom AI prompt, and with this one, we are using Rattle's wizard feature. Um, I think that there's a lot of value to a no-code system that has a UI to engage with and interact with. If you know code in Python and you're an engineering team of one, you can do a lot of things too, but I've lately really been leaning into tools that provide an easy way to interact with what you're doing, and I think Wizard provides that. So what we're doing again is looking for that context. We started with a keyword tracker and it wasn't great, right? Because words like agency or reseller, they come up all the time and we have no context on whether or not that means our channel team and specifically our channel solution is the right one for this conversation and to get involved early. So with the tool that we're using, it actually will rerun our prompt for us after every email, after every phone interaction, every gong call for us, but different tools can integrate with it. And it looks for the context based on our solution, based on the prompt. Does this warrant our channel team getting involved? And if it does, we send that summary, we send the context, and we actually send a little blurb too on recommended next steps to a channel fit channel within our Slack that our channel team's involved in, including our channel leader. And then they can, review the summary. I think this is another good example of like human in the loop as well. It's not AI making all the decisions for you. It's notifying you, letting you see the summaries, letting you dig into the calls, and then make the decision, does this make sense to actually get involved from a channel perspective? So that's taken all the manual guesswork out of what we're doing. It's a lot more proactive. It's very early in the sales cycle, typically, even customer cycles as well. We're noticing a lot of impact there. Um, we're seeing, a couple of more partner source leads or at least partner influence leads and opportunities every month. Whereas that growth over time was really reliant on salespeople remembering what to do. Now it's proactive and we're actually seeing growth in that pipeline.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to move us a little quicker along. I have one more question that I wanted to ask you, Kevin, and then we're going to turn it over to you to show some specific use cases and examples that you have brought for us today. But my last question is, what is next for you in AI? I know you have been very much on the cutting edge and forward thinking about how to use AI in RevOps. So I'd love to know, what are you most excited about testing or evaluating or implementing next in the coming months?
Yeah, so this one kind of gets me fired up because it is really early in my implementation of this and working on it, but I tend to get fired up by things that are really challenging, but also can bring a lot of value. I think a lot of what we've talked about today are use cases that impact, sales, some internal operations, but mostly kind of outbound customer and prospect, either facing or listening prompts and AI use cases. I'm looking at doing a little bit more for my internal RevOps team, using a lot of the new agentic workflows that exist and tools that exist out there. I'm working right now on building out workflows and even agents that will take on kind of RevOps style roles within my team. So you can imagine somebody like myself, I probably wear a lot of hats, and my director, Patrick, wears a lot of hats. Everybody on our team wears a lot of hats, right? I think what's really important is, are there areas of even our own internal operational processes where we can drive efficiency and get better outcomes, right? So think about things like analyzing pipeline gaps or summarizing QBRs, flagging at-risk renewals, or even prepping data for forecast meetings. I actually used it last week to help me get ready for forecast. So those things, if I can get kind of a sense of, imagine almost like an AI org structure where each one of my teammates runs their own AI team, where they can lean into these agents to help them prepare for their week or to run analyses. Or one agent that I'm working on is meant to plug into our Snowflake and Salesforce instances, understand our schemas, and give us recommendations on improving our data workflows, right? So all of that for my BI team and for my, senior dev on the team, probably a piece of cake. But to go from a blank piece of paper to a fully built out project, brief and schemas and all that can take hours or days of heads down work. Now they can focus on what they're really passionate about and what they're going to work or get the most satisfaction out of working on, getting really great outputs, getting there faster, and ideally doing so in kind of an enjoyable way. So that's what I'm working on over the next quarter. I'm really excited to get that rolled out to the team, finding initial use cases right now. It's not the easiest thing to do. You know, a lot of this is brand new. But I think the outputs or the promise of what it can deliver is definitely going to keep me motivated to keep working on that.
That's exciting. Kevin, maybe in 3 months or so, we can have you back to do another follow-up webinar with what you've created and built for your team.
I'd love that. Yeah, whatever I can do to give back to the RevOps community, I'm always down to share those things.
Awesome. And RevOps community that's here, I get a lot of opportunity to speak with Kevin. So maybe Kevin will have like a mid-quarter interview and I can write up a blog post to share with everyone here with how it's going for you.
You already know I'm in.
Awesome. All right, Apoorva, just one last question to you. Based on what you're seeing in the market, where do you think all of this is headed? Where would you suggest that RevOps leaders prepare for over the next 3-6 months?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I've been thinking about it a lot. So one, of course, the starting point is insights. And Kevin, I'm going to borrow a few of your words because I was thinking in the next phase of what AI means for RevOps, it is going to be having some sort of a junior RevOps person in your team who's not just doing the reporting, but is also taking over a lot of analysis and trying to get you to a lot of answers, be it something as basic as closed loss analysis, or something which you mentioned about using Snowflake and Salesforce to identify the places of improvement in schema. So having that as a right-hand person is somewhere where I see AI going towards in the next phase. And eventually, I think I'm going to still piggyback on the intelligence layer, because I think that's where eventually the magic is going to happen, in which we not only do good execution, but we are also doing intelligent execution. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thank you, Apoorva and Kevin. Audience, I do see that there have been some questions. If we don't have time to answer these today, I will be following up with a blog post answering every question that gets asked. I'll be sure to send that out to everybody who's here today. But I do want to move us along to Kevin, the specific details that you've prepared. As you're getting yourself organized for that, I have one more question for our audience today to put answers into the chat if you would like. And this question is, what would you most want to see AI handle for you today that it's currently not? And this could be whether because you haven't evaluated something or set something up yet, or because you're not sure if AI is even fully capable to do this yet. I'd love to hear some examples in here of what you all, our audience here today, RevOps professionals, what you would like to see and hope to see AI be able to deliver for you over the next, let's say, year. What are you hoping for? All right, with that, Kevin, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you for walking us through this next step, which is some specifics in how you are using AI in your world at DemandScience today.
Sure. So I wanted to share a couple of real world examples that I kind of walked through earlier in some of the answers that I gave. And I'm going to share my screen here actually, which means I can't see the chat, but I hope everybody can see my screen. I'm usually okay with this. Isn't it fun when you share your screen, Zoom chat just like disappears? But hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Kevin, I can see it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I literally the chat thing just disappears. So the first thing that I wanted to give an example on here, and these are actual real world examples, and I mentioned in chat too, I'm always happy to connect on LinkedIn and talk shop. And if you want other examples of prompts that I've used, happy to connect there and kind of talk through some things. But that macroeconomic impact prompt, I think there's a couple of things that have been really, really useful about this prompt that I wanted to highlight. I'm not going to walk through kind of every letter of this prompt, but I did write it all down and I'm happy to share it. Where the very first thing here, only return output if, has been really impactful, especially if you want to take your outputs and share them with something like Slack, or even to share them in a like in a Salesforce field, which we're doing more and more of as well. You want to make sure that your outputs actually meet your desire. Before you don't want to post things. I made this mistake early on in my AI journey of posting things like, no results were found on this conversation, and that's super not helpful. And again, it starts to erode trust in the tool, and you want to make sure that every time somebody engages with the tools that you're putting together or the outputs you're putting together, that trust is built, not eroded, right? So only return output if certain things are met. I also reinforce it. I also reinforce it here. So there are a couple of different places in the prompt that I reinforce that I only want outputs if we find that the essentially the context I'm looking for is triggered. Everybody knows kind of prompt structure at this point, so giving it a role, giving it some things to look for, I think is pretty standard at this point. I also, if the criteria are met, and this is where the prompt kind of picks up my automation. So I say, if in the output impact colon yes, then I trigger off the Slack notification, or then I will populate a field in Salesforce. So that's where it's really important here to say, I need this to happen if there's a yes. And then now you've got something in your output that you can always trigger off of. There's other ways to do this. And certain things, let's say like spiced criteria, that are pretty straightforward and pretty well known, I've not had as much of an issue with. But for something like this has been really, really helpful. And when I look at all my outputs, it took me a while to get to this kind of prompt structure, but the outputs have been really, really solid. And I truly don't get results anymore unless results are warranted. So this is an example of a prompt that I've used, and here's an actual example. And this is a real example of an output I got. Any sort of names of company names or people I've changed. But other than that, you can see we're getting the customer context. Yes, I do get emojis. I think they're a little bit more fun to read in Slack. You can see the economic impact came out exactly like I was hoping for. So impact colon, yes. This allowed me to trigger this. So I actually pulled this from a Slack notification. This allowed me to trigger the Slack notification. You can see exactly what some of the impacts are that this customer is worried about. This doesn't mean we're going to lose this customer or that they're not going to buy from us, but it is a really important signal for our executive leadership team to know that these conversations are happening. And luckily, we actually haven't seen as many positive hits on this as I thought. From the keyword indicator, you would have thought it was going to be huge, but with the context, it's actually been quite a bit less. But that Slack channel is going to give us a pretty good indication of how frequently are these conversations happening, and do we need to work from a marketing standpoint or enablement standpoint on how to have these conversations, or do we need to update our outlook? So I do have it actually identify specific signals from the conversation. Not to plug too much here, hopefully you don't feel like I am, but with Wizard, one nice thing is that we do get links to the call snippets. That's really nice. So if I'm getting direct outputs on what's being said, and that's why the listener here triggered, you can actually click directly into the Gong call and listen to that part of the call, which is really nice. And then you can see the recommended internal action too. And you're going to see a couple of examples of this. Just like, what are some things that we should do internally? It's not as critical, I think, on this one as it will be on the next example and how helpful it is, but it is something that I think is still valuable. And we can see things like notifying the exec sponsor, absolutely. Letting the AE know, here's some ways to address this, absolutely. So this is that first example that I wanted to give you guys about economic impact. And I just think that this one's really important for a lot of businesses out there. And there are ways of doing it today, but I think using LLMs and their, kind of innate ability to look for context and the why behind not just what the customer is saying, but behind what I'm really looking for is really impactful. Now for this next one, it's just an example. It's not the prompt, but the prompt structure is identical. It's just what we're looking for. So here we're actually looking for, are there times when, like the channel fit example I gave earlier, where our event marketing services team can get involved early on in the conversation. Again, the names of everything has been changed. But I wanted to show you here too that I'm giving an example of spiced. So I'm running on every call and email, so every activity in Salesforce, I'm running spice trackers as well through AI, and they're outputting the situation, pain, impact, critical event, and decision criteria into Salesforce but also they're being tracked on our board, and in our board is where all the prompts run. So it's like opportunity, amount, stage, forecast, category, all the standard stuff. But then I've got a column for situation, a column for pain points. And when these columns hit, we can run automation to actually push those to Salesforce fields so that anybody reviewing this opportunity anytime can see this. But when this triggers as part of my prompt, I am actually having it give the full spice breakdown so that our events team, when they reach out to the AE and kind of determine, does it make sense to get involved in this deal, especially early? I think that's what we're looking for, is getting involved earlier and more proactively. Based on these kind of contextual hints, is it truly kind of worth the time, or does it truly make sense to reach out? And if it does, which so far these have been really good proactive signals, it just catches them up really quickly. So the conversations in Slack can be a lot more outcomes focused and just getting there really, really quickly. And then you can see here too, the output's exactly what I'm looking for to trigger that output here that you see that I pushed into Slack. The third example that I wanted to give here, and I'll be pretty brief about this one, is just another, this is channel alliances fit, like I said earlier in the webinar. But I kind of left a note here that this is a brief version. So this one has all the spice data. This is very, very narrow and focused, right? So why exactly are we getting involved? What's the customer context? And this one, they just wanted to know, what is the reasoning? Why does it make sense to get involved this early? This is another thing I think is important for you RevOps folks on the call, is to get that feedback. All the spice criteria is great for our team that asked for the listener for events. This team really wanted to be a lot more focused. Get the notification, be able to click in and listen to the call, make the decision, and reach out to the AE right away. So you don't have to be so verbose, I guess, in the outputs that you look for. It's all about customer, and for us, when I say customer, I mean internal customer feedback and desires. What gives them what they need. And again, that's going to build the trust. That's going to build their idea for what's like valuable. And are these Slack notifications or Salesforce fields worth reading? To determine that, ask for feedback early and often. The very last thing that I wanted to give an example of here are auto-generated qualification notes. So these are a little bit different from the three prior examples I gave you. This one is very, very specific in the prompt on exactly what we're looking for, exactly what questions we would ask, and exactly what we're looking for in the outputs. I actually have this formatted in HTML, and it goes into a rich text field in Salesforce, and it does render like this with bold, with bullet points. It's way easier to digest that way instead of a giant block of text. And so you can just kind of see an example here. And I think, and then my last example here was sales methodology. So spice stuff. This is for Medic that we did at my prior company. We're working on rolling out Spiced right now. But again, it's HTML, it's a rich text field. It formats really nicely, and it's looking very specifically at the things that we're looking for. The nice thing about tools like this, like Wizard, like, I actually built this one out manually, but I've since switched to make sure that it's kind of a no-code environment and I can work with the UI. But I did build this one out manually using code and all kinds of things. But the important thing is to feed back in your existing value so that you're not overwriting it and duplicating it every single time it runs. So I say, here's the existing value in the field. Is there anything new that you'd like to add to the field that gives us additional insight and context? Then just append to that field. So that's a little tip for you, I guess. It's something I learned the hard way, is I wasn't feeding back in the existing fields. So I was overriding it and losing it, or I was duplicating over and over and over the same feedback and the same outputs. So this one's really kind of one of the low-hanging fruit if you do have a sales methodology that you want to get kind of out there in the wild and actually utilized in Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever your CRM is. This is a good low-hanging fruit to do. There's other things obviously that can be really helpful, but I just wanted to give some real-world examples that we're getting a lot of value out of that allow us to be more efficient, more proactive. Can a rep fill out all of this? Sure. But should they have to? Not in 2025, I don't think. So those are the examples that I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope you found them useful. I did mention in chat, if you ever want to connect, you want to talk about prompts, you just want to talk shop, let me know. I'm happy to follow up if you guys have got questions too, or have questions about how I implemented this. So that's what I got, Sarah.
Thank you, Kevin, so much. I did see one question that came up here. Andrew, you asked if the outcomes are based on recorded calls. So Kevin, you can certainly answer that for how it's working for your business. But Andrew, I can tell you that Rattle can review the unstructured data of recorded calls, of logged emails, Apurva, I may be missing, Slack,
Yeah.
Slack channels as well. Kevin, what are you basing it off of for your business?
Same. So one of the reasons why I switched from coding all this up myself to using a tool that had, a UI and a low code solution is I struggled, with the ability to pull in all the email data, all the Slack data, all the context that surrounds these signals that we're looking for. So could I do Gong transcripts? Sure. But when I really wanted to get more and more advanced and get better and better signal, it did make sense for me to switch. And obviously I chose Rattle because you guys do offer me the ability to get so much more context rather than trying to have to figure it all out myself. Even little things like implementing the latest models. If I did it all myself, I'd have to, oh, we're on 3.5, oh, we're on 4.0, oh, we're on 4.5, for all these different LLMs out there. Using a tool, a lot of times they've got engineers, they've got people that are going to make sure you're always using the latest and greatest. So that was kind of, sorry, that's my answer for that one.
Thanks. Some people in the audience have sent a question in to just the panelists and the host today asking, is there going to be a way to digest this further? And yes, there is. One is we will send this recording out, but I know that that still might be a lot. So Kevin and I are going to work on a blog post together after this webinar concludes. So I'm going to write the first version. Kevin, I'll have you add a little bit to it so we can share a few more specific details for anybody in the audience who would like to digest this further. But that does bring me to another audience question that I would love to ask everybody here. You just heard a lot from Kevin about what he's doing. Is there anything in what he shared that, one, you wish you could implement yourselves immediately, two, you would like to learn more about? I'm asking because this will help me craft the next blog post. It will also help me craft our future webinars, which we are planning to do more of these in the future. So please do share what you just heard, what you would like to dive in deeper and learn more about. Okay, Kevin, thank you so much. I'm now going to turn it over to you, Apurva, because one of the challenges of this webinar that Kevin and I discussed is that he wasn't able to actually show in an AI tool how he built these things out, because Kevin, if you were sharing that, you would be sharing your own customer data. So one thing that we talked about, Kevin, thank you for preparing the way that you did so that there was something for people to look at as you walked everyone through. But now, Apurva, perhaps you could share what it actually looks like, what some of the steps are that our customers would go through, would need to use in order to build this out for themselves. I'll hand that over to you to walk everybody through that in some detail.
Awesome. Happy to do that. So with that, let me share my screen. And for context, this is the view which a lot of our Rattle customers should already be familiar with. And this is the place of work. This is what you as RevOps folks would be living in. And you would be able to get Slack notifications from these prompts, these columns onto your team. So I'll start with a small example of next steps update, right? Like that's a very basic example, which I think a lot of us go through. So what was the next step which was discussed in the last call? So this is something which we call as a smart column, which is where you can decide whether you want to get information from your call recorders, from your emails, whatever is the primary source of truth which you have, which you want to be used to populate the next steps. And over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply give it a very simple prompt, which is I just need to clearly define the next steps in Salesforce. For example, this one, I made it a comprehensive prompt from ChatGPT, but we also have templates, existing templates, which you can utilize at your own pace. But that's about it. once I've given it a prompt, I'm going to determine, in this case, whether I want to mention it as a percentage, multiple choice, single choice. In this case, text works perfectly fine for me. And here is where the magic happens. So as everybody can see here, we have quite a few data sources, right? You can figure out if you want to get data from your call recordings, whether you want to get data from your emails or from your Slack conversations, or even from your Salesforce. So you can toggle on, toggle off anything per your wish. And where it gets more interesting is you can also customize it down to the detail of what duration of calls do you want, or how many last calls do you want to be, evaluated in this case. So for instance, for next steps update, I just want to look at the last one call and maybe the last one email. But something which is more about identifying the trends, maybe you want to look at the calls which have happened over the last 1 month or anything of that sort. So you determine what is the context which is relevant for your team for this prompt, and that's how it works. And that's about it. As soon as I hit the save button, this is pretty much the configuration which I need to do here. And I know some of the folks had asked in the question about auto-updating Salesforce in the chat. So if you want to do that, that's also pretty straightforward, because you can toggle this button on and you can simply say next step history. In this case, this is the field which we are using to capture next steps. And that's about it. So now every time there's a new call which happens for any of these deals, the next step will be auto-populated in your Salesforce. What we recommend is that early on, do not toggle auto-update Salesforce. First, as Kevin was also mentioning, have trust with the system, have trust with the output. And once you have that, only after that, toggle something on so that AI can hit your CRM system. But that is one example, hopefully, which tells you how quickly and how easily you would be able to configure any new insight in Rattle AI. And the template part, which I was talking about, so we have quite a few free existing templates, ready-made existing templates for your reference, which you can use to figure out whether you want to understand spiced methodology, or whether you want to understand why are you losing deals or why are you winning deals. So all of that is ready out of the system, available in Rattle AI for you to use and get started on immediately. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Apurva. One question that did come through is for teams that want to get started with what you just showed, but the question came specifically to what Kevin had set up and shared. The question is, what's a realistic time frame that it would take to get this set up?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say anywhere up until 1 to 2 days is max for you to understand what is that you want to create, and then actually go ahead and create it and make it live for yourself. And then after that, if you want to roll it out to further team, I think it is a lot more about just managing the expectation with the team. But in terms of how quickly can you set it up, it shouldn't take more than 1 or 2 days for sure.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to wrap us up here. Kevin, Apurva, were there any last comments that you wanted to make before I wrap us up?
I think the only thing that I would say, like a last little tidbit, is that done is way better than perfect, right? So I think one of the things that's stopping a lot of RevOps folks from getting out there and trying some of these tools is I've got this image of a perfect use case or a perfect output that I want. I would just say pick the low-hanging fruit, pick something that's low effort but high impact that'll start building trust right away. Get out there, build it, start getting it into the wild to get that feedback. Don't let the perfect kind of hold you back, right? Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? So find that use case, get out there and build it, and good luck building.
Thanks. And Kevin, because it's you, I have to also say, everything is figure outable, which is one of my favorite reasons for meeting with Kevin, because I always get reminded of that. All right, so we're going to say goodbye here, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. If you're already a Rattle customer, thank you. And if you want to learn more about any of these things you saw, reach out to your CSM. We'll help get you set up. If you are evaluating Rattle or considering or just wanting to know how it works, you know how to get in touch with us. We'd be happy to show you. Mark your calendars, or sort of mark your calendars. We are going to be having webinars like this, webinars around how to actually use AI in RevOps about every 4 to 6 weeks. So you are welcome to share topics, or that is the topic, but specific details that you would like to know more about, and we will find speakers, we will find people who are doing that to share with you. And I'll be sure to send invites out when we have that scheduled. I will also, yes, I will send you the recording. I will send you the blog post that Kevin and I put together here shortly. And just thank you. Thank you, audience, for being here today. And Kevin and Apoorva, thank you so much for doing this with me. I love these. They're fun, but they're only fun because you're here. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye-bye.